Hello, this is Nick from MacLeod Games, and in this video, I actually want to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of my open table campaign and give you a bunch of advice on how to run yours. All right, so in this video, I want to talk about running an open table campaign. In my case, it's run for 3 years. But before we get into it, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers, but I also want this to be pushed to more people because I want more people to run campaigns, and I want more people to play Dungeon Crawl Classics, and also adjacent games like Shadow Dark or Knave or Mothership. All of these principles apply to running an open table campaign of any game that your heart desires. And so before we get into it too deep, if you like my videos, please support Breaker Press Games by going to DriveThruRPG or itch.io and buying a PDF, or going to the Breaker Press web store and buying one of my zines. They are also available through the Goodman Games store, web store, through Exalted Funeral, through Noble Knight. There's a multitude of different options for picking up some Breaker Press content. And then the most important way, the most valuable way that you can support Breaker Press Games is by becoming a member of my Patreon. 12 times a month, I send out cool stuff like this pamphlet adventure, Altar of Embers, or class guides like The Outlier. I've got lots of cool stuff coming up in the queue that is going to be dropping across the next 2 months. And so I am very excited to get those out the door and to my patrons. And you can become a patron right now. So check that out. The link's down in the doobly-doo. Now, let's talk about this anniversary, the celebration. So I am going to pick this up right here. This is my tithe box. It also is my podium for running my games of Dungeon Crawl Classics. And it just so happens that 3 years ago, I found this tithe box in the alley behind my house. And it happened to be perfectly timed with when two people at my work, customers at my work, had separately been pestering me to run a D&D session at my house. And I explained, I write D&D like content. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. And they were like, I don't care. I want this to happen. And so they happened to both come in on the same week, and it happened to coincide right along with me finding this tithe box. I mounted the skull on it. But things just came together, and I was like, screw it, let's do it. And so I ended up inviting over a bunch of people, and 5 people showed up. And it was the start of my current Stennard campaign. In fact, a early version of this Stennard character creation guide, there's now been 13 printings of this, but the very first version was created for my open table campaign that I started on November 16th, 2022. So here we are. It is now November 12th, 2025. And 3 years later, I am approximately 75 sessions in. I have killed approximately 90 characters. And I have had 20 some odd different players come across my table. And so it has been a journey. But it has been a wonderful journey. I have met so many wonderful people. Some of them have moved away. You know, people come and go for various reasons, changes of jobs, changes of life situation. But the tips that I am going to talk to you about right here are going to help mitigate those things so that you can have a successful open table campaign that continues for years to come. So let's talk about my successes, and hopefully they become your successes. So first and foremost, number 1, be consistent. The thing that I have hammered on in previous videos about my open table campaign, I'll put a link over here. the first and foremost is to be consistent. I run my open table campaign every other Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and I have done so for 3 years. The only times that I have missed are because I was at a week-long convention such as Gen Con or at Gamehole Con, because I have to be there before I have to be there early in order to set up the Goodman Games booth. But otherwise, there was once or twice I got COVID or got sick. But otherwise, I have not missed sessions. And in addition, if one of my players wanted to do a bonus session in order to experience, a one-on-one adventure to earn spells or some other quest, I would do that. And so that's how I still am at approximately 75 sessions. But all of that being said, the number one thing that was important was being consistent and having my sessions every other Wednesday from 6 to 9. Now, the other thing that I'm going to point out that I didn't point out in any of my previous videos is to start and stop at consistent times. I start, people can show up at 6 o'clock. It usually takes about 15 to 30 minutes for people to show up and get settled in. By 6:45 to 7, we are rolling. It doesn't matter how long it took to get set up. It doesn't matter what's going on in the game. I try to wrap things up right around 9 o'clock. Sometimes I'll push to 9:15 if I know that we can finish a combat. And I will ask if it is okay for us to continue. I try not to ever go past 9:15. And why is that? It's because I'm doing this midweek. Everyone is expecting to leave at 9 o'clock, and they have obligations in the morning. They have to go to work. They have to, get the kids to school. It doesn't matter what the obligation is. I need to respect that time. And by respecting that time, they know what to expect. And that reinforces that this is something that they can count on to be when it's supposed to be and end when it's supposed to be done. All right, so number 2, be enthusiastic. You will notice that in my videos, I have a certain energy about me, and I try to carry that in everything that I do. That isn't to say, I used to be a hardcore a vocalist in a hardcore punk band. That was not the persona that I had when I was on stage. But generally in life, I try to be enthusiastic about the things that I do, and I try to inspire people with that enthusiasm. Now, it is very important to be enthusiastic because when you have a positive energy, the people around you have a positive energy. If you're always complaining about your players, or you're complaining about, how nobody shows up, how things always fall apart, that the system that you're running isn't, it has XYZ mechanics that you don't like. If you're complaining about it, it creates a negative energy, and then people don't want to be a part of that. You want to be a positive energy. You want to be enthusiastic and bring that every single session. Number 3, create a welcoming environment. Playing off of that, it is part of that positive energy is also being welcoming, encouraging people to come into your home or into the space that you are running game. People have commented that I am good at doing this at a convention, and part of how I do this is by making sure that if there is a new person that I have not encountered before, asking them a bit about themselves. Hey, what do you do? Where did you come in from? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And making sure that they feel welcomed at my table. And it doesn't matter, what walk of life that they come from. I want them to feel like they belong at my table. And if you do that, they will feel like they belong at your table. And part of that is making sure that, if they are new to the game and they don't know what a D16 is or a D24 is, that you tell them in a respectful way and encourage them and laugh about it and enjoy those moments together. I try to make sure that when I'm running my open table campaign at home, hey, I hand somebody that's brand new my character creation guide, and they have to roll up 2 0-level characters. They have to go through the same experience that everybody else did. They start off with 2 zeros. There's a high chance that they will die, but I will have one of my players run them through character creation so that they are, once again, part of the group. The idea here is that we are creating a micro community, kind of like going to church or going to a punk show where you are part of the scene. And so creating that welcoming environment ensures that you have people that are going to feel welcomed to come back again. Number 4, encourage your friends to bring their friends. Once again, community. It is about creating this environment that people want to be a part of. That somebody that is one of your players goes home and they're telling their friend about the great time that they had, and then they're like, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool," and then them feeling comfortable enough to invite them to come along. And so when I send out my invites, I make sure to encourage people to bring friends. And so this has resulted in one of the things that causes campaign death is that you have, let's say your core group of 4 or 5 friends that you invite, and over time, one of them has a kid, one of them starts a new job, and they start to, the campaign falls apart through attrition. But if you have this environment where you encourage people to bring their friends, yes, you might have a session where you have 11 people show up at your house. I have had, it went from being consistent 4 to 6 people, then it became consistent 5 to 7, and now I consistently get 7 to 10 players at my house. And that might cause you a bit of consternation, but the fact of the matter is that if you keep delivering a fantastic experience, people are going to want to come. But rolling it back to this idea of encouraging your friends to bring their friends, that ensures 2 things. One, they are an anchor that is bringing this other person into your orbit, or multiple other people into your orbit. But additionally, you are reinforcing that community vibe that makes this a thing that people are participating in, because it's an opportunity to hang out with their friends. And they know that if they make a new friend, they can bring that new friend into the fold. Ultimately, I have not lost people over time through, or haven't lost table count, chair count, over time through attrition, because people are always bringing new people into the fold, and it has been fantastic. Number 5, engage your players equally. I hammer on this in a number of videos. In my successful open table campaign videos, in running tips for running convention games videos. You want to move that spotlight. You want to make sure that the spotlight is moving around the table, that everybody is getting an equal shot to have time in front of the camera, and do those cool and exciting and fun things. Not every player plays the same way, and so somebody might be just like, I'm gonna roll to hit with my sword, but other players are gonna want to do some RP or whatever. But if somebody is hogging the spotlight, you're going to have to pull it away and move it to somebody else. And if you see somebody get, dug in on their phone or something like that, you're going to move the spotlight to them. Just like the annoying teacher calling on the distracted student at school, and pull them back into your space and be a part of the game. It is very important, especially, in that going back to making people feel welcomed, is to make sure that you give them as much attention and care and enthusiasm as you do your existing players. You want everybody to feel part of this experience that you are creating at the table. 6, vary their experiences. I run a 3-hour session, and that's to make it more accessible. 4 hours is harder for people to make time for. In fact, even with my 3-hour session, a lot of people show up at 6:30 because they have, obligations or whatever that they have to complete. And, they, get out of work, and then they want to stop and get snacks and blah, blah, blah. I make space for that. I understand that. But with that tighter time frame, if you just run, let's say, the popular thing on the internet, like 5 room dungeons. 5 room dungeons are still like a 4 hour experience. So you're getting into like 3 room dungeons, and so if you're only doing like combat after combat after combat after combat, people aren't going to necessarily enjoy that experience. Somebody that's really into role playing and not combat is going to want to have a role-playing experience. Somebody that's really into combat and there's a ton of RP, you need to vary up those experiences. You want to have wilderness encounters. You want to have dungeons. You want to have city encounters. You want to make sure that there's role play and puzzles and what have you, but not everything in every session. If you're working with a tight time frame, you're going to want to vary those experiences and make sure that everybody gets a little bit of what they want over time. And that also is going to help you with your creativity, because you are going to, challenge yourself with different things to throw at the players. All right, number 7, thank them for coming. If you want people to come back again and again and again and again, you want to make sure that they know that you value their presence. And so I make sure to, I used to do it after every session. Now I do it after most sessions. I will send out a thank you text individualized to each person, referencing something that they did in the game or thanking them for bringing a specific snack or what have you. I want to make sure that they know that I appreciate them, because they are making my life richer. They are making the table richer, and they are a part of my community, and I appreciate that. You need to make sure that they appreciate it too. And then 8, run the game that you want. And this is something that drives me crazy. So many times people will talk to me at a convention, or they will post about online, I want to run X game, whether it's Mothership or Knave or Cairn or Dungeon Crawl Classics itself, because people come up to me at the booth and I can't get any of my friends to play. No, that's not how it works. You are running the game. You make the choice. Your friends and the people around your friends, they can make the decision whether they want to be around you and play in your game, because you are only going to be enthusiastic if you are running the game that you want. If you run 5e, for example, because that is the popular game and it's not the experience that you want to create and have with your players, you're not going to be stoked about it. They're not going to be as stoked about it. It is not going to be the table that you want. So when I ran my first session of this 3-year-long campaign now, people showed up. A few of them showed up with their 5e rule books, their player's handbooks. And I said, you're not going to need that. You can put that away. And they put them away. And then I handed each of them one of my standard character creation guide. And it's been fine. I think out of the 20 to 30 people that have come across my table, I think I've lost one because they prefer 5e. It's about making sure that you create an experience that they want to engage in. And really, I think that at the end of the day, the system isn't as important. Being excited about you as the GM, being excited about the system and creating experience that you are just amped on and sending that energy out into the world and to your table is what is going to create a situation where people come back again and again and again, because you're going to be stoked and they are going to feed off of that energy. I take it back to my experiences as being a vocalist in a hardcore punk band. Every show wasn't awesome, but if I got out on stage and I was amped and I'm jumping around and I am just living that moment as it is, I am screaming into that microphone like it is life or death. This is something that I love. This is something that I care about. People engaged with that and they fed off of that, and it came back to me in spades. And I feel like if you approach, obviously you're not going to jump up and down in your living room and you're not going to scream in people's faces, though people will argue that I do yell in people's faces on occasion. Colin McCarthy, I'm calling you out. that being said, by bringing that energy to the table, that you are excited to have these people in front of you, you're running the game that you want, it is going to pay you back in spades. So please, don't run the game that you think your players want. Run the game that you want, and you can tweak it around the edges to create experiences that they are excited to engage in. But at the end of the day, the system and the vibe, that's all you. So those are my bits of advice for how I got to here with my 3-year campaign. I am excited for tonight, as I am every single game night, but I also am endlessly appreciative. And so I want to take this moment to thank all of my players for the last 3 years coming into my home with my pit bull and my skulls all over the place, because these are people from all different walks of life, and being excited to engage with this weird, grim, dark survival horror world that I've created that wasn't necessarily what they, wasn't the D&D experience they knew that they wanted until they got here and they were like, this is awesome. I'm having a great time. So with all that being said, thank you from the bottom of my heart to all my players. As always, thank you for supporting indie games and indie game designers. Live fully, die gloriously, and I will see you all in the next one.